My sister humiliated my 6-year-old daughter at a family dinner. She physically blocked her from sitting down and said those words that still make my blood boil: "This table's for well-behaved kids." I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell. I just smiled, grabbed our coats, and walked out. But what I did 2 hours later, that changed everything. And when my sister texted me 2 days later asking, "What time should we check in?" I knew she had no idea what was coming. My name is Clark, I'm 30 years old, and I live in Los Angeles. This is the story of how I learned that sometimes the quietest response carries the loudest message. Let me take you back to where this all began, 3 months before that devastating dinner. I've always been the boring one in my family. While my sister Brenda made her career in real estate and constantly reminded everyone about her success, I worked as a freelance graphic designer. Nothing flashy. Nothing that made for exciting dinner conversation. But it paid well, and more importantly, it let me be present for my daughter, Lucy. Lucy is 6 years old, and she's everything to me. After my divorce from John 2 years ago, it's been just the two of us against the world. She's shy, thoughtful, and has this way of watching people with these big, observant eyes that seem to take in everything. Brenda has a daughter too, Emily, who's 7. And if Lucy is gentle rain, Emily is a Category 5 hurricane. Don't get me wrong, I love my niece. But Brenda has always parented with this hands-off approach she calls letting kids be kids, which really means Emily rarely hears the word no. Our mother, Helen, has always played favorites. It's subtle, the way these things often are, but it's there. Brenda was the golden child, the achiever, the successful one, the daughter who made something of herself. I was Clark. Reliable. Quiet. There. Before I continue, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever felt overlooked in your own family, if you've ever watched someone you love get hurt by people who should protect them, hit that like button. It tells me I'm not alone in this. And honestly, after what happened, I need to know I'm not crazy for the choice I made. 3 months ago, Mom had suggested we do a big family winter vacation. Let's make memories, she'd said. The girls are only young once. It sounded perfect. A week in a mountain house, skiing, hot chocolate, actual quality time together. For once, maybe we could be the family I'd always wished we were. I'd done well with a few big clients that year. Really well. And I wanted to do something special, something generous. So I offered to book the house. "I'll take care of everything," I told them at Sunday dinner. My treat. Brenda had raised an eyebrow. "You sure you can swing that, Clark? Those places aren't cheap." There it was. That little dig. The implication that I couldn't possibly afford what she could. "I'm sure," I'd said simply. Mom had clapped her hands together. "Oh, how wonderful. Clark, that's so generous." "Isn't that generous, Brenda?" "Very," Brenda had said, but her smile hadn't reached her eyes. I'd spent hours finding the perfect place. A 5-bedroom mountain house in Big Bear, 3 hours from LA. It had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the snow-covered pines, a massive stone fireplace, a hot tub on the deck, and enough space that we wouldn't be on top of each other all week. The total cost? $9,000 for the week between Christmas and New Year's. I'd put down the deposit and sent everyone the details. Brenda had responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Mom had called me, gushing about how excited she was. My brother Walt and his wife Rachel were bringing their teenage son, Griffin. My Aunt Jane was even flying in from Seattle. It was going to be perfect. That's what I thought, anyway. The Sunday dinners were a tradition Mom had insisted on maintaining. Every week, the family gathered at her house in Sherman Oaks. Brenda was usually late, sweeping in with Emily and some story about a big sale she'd just closed. Walt and Rachel were the steady ones, always arriving right on time with a store-bought dessert and easy conversation. I'd started noticing things more clearly in those weeks leading up to the vacation. Little moments I'd probably been overlooking for years. Like how Emily would take toys right out of Lucy's hands, and Brenda would laugh it off. "She's just being a kid, Clark. Don't make such a big deal out of everything." Or how Mom would show us photos on her phone, and 9 out of 10 were of Emily. "She's just so photogenic," Mom would say, as if that explained everything. Lucy never complained. "That's not who she is." She'd just quietly pick up a different toy or move to another part of the room. But I saw the way her shoulders would slump, just a little. The way she'd gotten quieter and quieter at these gatherings. 2 weeks before the vacation, we'd all met for Sunday dinner as usual. Emily had been showing off her new tablet, some expensive model Brenda had bought her for educational purposes, though she was clearly just playing games on it. "Want to see, Lucy?" Emily had asked, in that overly sweet voice kids use when adults are watching. Lucy had stepped closer, interested. She loved anything with art or creativity on it. The moment the adults looked away, Emily had jerked the tablet back. "Actually, you can't touch it. My mom said you might break it because you're clumsy." I'd heard it. I knew I'd heard it correctly because I saw Lucy's face crumble before she caught herself and rearranged her features into something neutral. "Emily," I'd said, keeping my voice level. "That wasn't kind." Brenda had swooped in immediately. "Oh, Clark, she's just protective of her things. You can't expect kids to share everything. Lucy understands, don't you, sweetie?" Lucy had nodded, and my heart had broken a little more. The dinner that changed everything happened on a Sunday, 3 days before we were supposed to leave for the vacation. I'd arrived with Lucy, who was wearing her favorite purple dress. She'd been excited all week, talking about building snowmen and learning to ski. She'd even made a countdown calendar, crossing off each day with a big red marker. "Only 3 more days, Mama," she'd said in the car. "Then we get to go to the snow house." The house was full when we arrived. Mom was in the kitchen with Aunt Jane. Walt, Rachel, and Griffin were in the living room watching football. Brenda was on her phone in the dining room, and Emily was running circles around the furniture. "There's my sweet girl," Mom had called out when she saw Lucy. But almost immediately, "Emily, come give Grandma a hug." Emily had barreled over, and suddenly the attention shifted entirely to her. Lucy had stood there, holding the drawing she'd made for Grandma, waiting for her turn that wouldn't come. I'd helped set the table while keeping one eye on Lucy, who'd settled into a corner with a book. She was good at making herself small, at finding ways to be content alone. It was a skill she shouldn't have had to develop at 6 years old. When dinner was ready, everyone had started moving toward the dining room. Mom had made pot roast, Lucy's favorite. For once, my daughter had seemed excited to be at the center of things. The table was set for 10, 2 adults at each end and 3 kids at a smaller table Mom had set up to the side. It was nice, actually. Made the kids feel special, like they had their own space. Lucy had walked toward the kids' table, where 3 places were set. Emily was already sitting in one chair. And then it happened. As Lucy approached, Brenda had stepped in front of her. Not accidentally. Deliberately. She'd actually extended her arm across the space, physically blocking Lucy from getting to the empty chair. "This table's for well-behaved kids," Brenda had said, her voice loud enough that everyone heard. The room had gone silent. Completely, utterly silent. Emily had looked up at her mother and then at Lucy, and she'd laughed. Not the innocent laugh of a child who doesn't understand, the knowing, cruel laugh of a kid who'd just watched someone else get humiliated. Lucy had frozen. Her eyes had gone wide, and I'd watched her face cycle through confusion, hurt, and then, worst of all, acceptance. Like she'd been waiting for something like this, like she'd known all along that she wasn't quite good enough. I need to pause here because I'm getting emotional just remembering this. If you're a parent, you know that feeling, watching your child hurt and wanting to burn the entire world down to protect them. If this story is resonating with you, if you understand that rage and heartbreak, please hit that subscribe button. Your support means everything, and it helps me share stories about standing up for the people we love. Everyone was staring. Mom's mouth had dropped open. Walt had stood up from his chair. Rachel had gasped. Even Griffin, usually oblivious to family drama, had looked shocked. And Brenda? She just stood there with that arm extended, like a bouncer at a club, keeping my daughter out. Brenda, what the hell? Walt had started to say. But I'd held up my hand. Because I'd learned something important in my 30 years, the biggest mistakes people make are in how they react. Yelling would make me look unstable. Arguing would give Brenda a chance to defend herself, to twist this into something else. Making a scene would just create drama that everyone would remember more than the original cruelty. So I'd done the only thing that felt right. I'd walked over to Lucy, who was still frozen in place, and I'd crouched down to her level. "Hey, baby," I'd said softly, just to her. "We're going to go now." "But, dinner," she'd whispered. "We'll get pizza. The good kind, with the crispy crust you love. Just you and me. Would you like that?" She'd nodded, and I'd seen the tears she was fighting so hard to hold back. I'd stood up, taken her hand, and walked to the coat closet. My hands were shaking as I pulled out our jackets, but my face was calm. Eerily calm. "Clark," Mom had started, finally finding her voice. "Don't be dramatic." I'm sure Brenda didn't mean. "I'm not being dramatic," I'd said quietly. "I'm leaving." "Clark, come on," Brenda had said, and I'd heard the first hint of uncertainty in her voice. "Don't be so sensitive. It was a joke." I'd looked at her then. Really looked at her. And I'd seen something I'd never noticed before. She was scared. Not of me, but of something. Maybe of being wrong. Maybe of consequences. Was Emily laughing because it was funny? I'd asked. Or because she's learned from you that hurting people is entertaining? Brenda's face had flushed red. "How dare you?" "We're leaving," I'd repeated, and I'd helped Lucy into her jacket. Walt had stood. "Clark, wait. Let's talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," I'd said. "My daughter was just told she's not well behaved enough to sit at a kid's table at her own grandmother's house. By her aunt." While her cousin laughed. "There's nothing to say." I'd taken Lucy's hand, and we'd walked out. The whole drive home, Lucy had been silent. She'd stared out the window, and I'd seen her reflection, those big eyes just watching the world go by. "Mama," she'd finally said, when we were almost home. "Yeah, baby? Am I bad?" I'd nearly driven off the road. I'd pulled over immediately, right there on the side of the street, and I'd gotten out and opened her door. I'd unbuckled her and pulled her into my arms, right there in her booster seat. "Lucy, listen to me. You are not bad. You are perfect. You are kind and thoughtful and smart and creative, and you are so good." "Then why did Aunt Brenda say?" "Because Aunt Brenda was wrong. Completely, totally, unforgivably wrong. Do you understand me? What she said had nothing to do with you and everything to do with her." She'd hugged me tighter. "Are we still going to the snow house?" And that's when I'd known exactly what I had to do. We'd gotten our pizza. We'd watched Lucy's favorite movie. I'd tucked her into bed and stayed with her until she fell asleep, stroking her hair and humming the lullaby I'd sung to her since she was a baby. Then I'd gone to my computer. The rental company's cancellation policy was clear: cancel more than 72 hours before check-in, get a full refund minus a small processing fee. We were exactly 73 hours out. My cursor had hovered over the cancellation button for a long time. I'd thought about all the plans. About Mom's excitement. About Griffin, who'd been looking forward to snowboarding. About Aunt Jane, who'd already bought her plane ticket. But then I'd thought about Lucy's face. About that question, am I bad? And I'd clicked cancel. The confirmation email had arrived within minutes. Reservation cancelled. Refund processing. I'd taken a screenshot and saved it to my phone. Then I'd closed my laptop and gone to bed. The next day, Monday, my phone had blown up. Mom called 3 times. I'd let it go to voicemail. Walt texted, "Clark, call Mom. She's worried about you." Brenda? Nothing. Radio silence. Rachel had sent a kind message. "Hey, I just wanted to say that what happened yesterday was not okay. We're thinking of you and Lucy. Let me know if you need anything." I'd appreciated that more than she knew. Tuesday had been more of the same. Mom had left increasingly desperate voicemails. Brenda had finally texted, "Are we really going to let one misunderstanding ruin Christmas?" One misunderstanding. That's what she'd called it. I hadn't responded to any of them. I'd spent Tuesday taking Lucy to her favorite park, getting ice cream, having a special day together. She'd seemed lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. "Is Aunt Brenda mad at me?" she'd asked while we were on the swings. "No, baby. And even if she is, that's her problem, not yours. You didn't do anything wrong. Are you mad at her?" I'd thought about that. I'm disappointed. When people we love hurt us, it's okay to be upset about it. It's okay to need space. She'd nodded, processing that. "I think I need space too." My 6-year-old. Articulating boundaries I'd taken me decades to learn. Wednesday morning, exactly 48 hours before we were supposed to check into the house that no longer existed on my reservation, Brenda had texted. "What time should we check in on Friday? Want to coordinate who brings what for groceries?" I'd stared at that text for a full minute. She had no idea. She genuinely had no idea what I'd done. I'd smiled then. Not a happy smile. A smile of someone who'd finally found their backbone. I'd typed out my response carefully. "You won't need to worry about check-in. I canceled the reservation on Sunday night. Have a nice Christmas." My thumb had hovered over the send button for just a second before I pressed it. Then I'd turned off my phone and taken Lucy to breakfast. When I'd finally turned my phone back on that evening, it had literally been smoking with notifications. 17 missed calls. 43 text messages. Even a few voicemails that had maxed out my inbox. "Mom, Clark, please tell me this is a joke." "Walt, did you really cancel the house?" "The whole house." "Aunt Jane, I'm confused about what's happening. Can someone call me?" Brenda had sent a novel. "I'll spare you the entire thing, but here are the highlights. Are you seriously this petty? You're ruining Christmas for everyone because you can't take a joke? Emily is devastated. Mom is crying. You're being incredibly selfish. This is so typical of you, Clark. Everything has to be about you and your perfect little angel. Get over yourself and fix this." I'd read every message. Taken my time with each one. Then I'd responded only to Walt and Rachel. "I'm sorry you're caught in this. I'm happy to explain my decision if you'd like to talk. But I'm not apologizing for it." Walt had called immediately. "Clark, I get that you're upset," he'd said. What Brenda said was way out of line. But canceling the whole trip? That affects everyone. I know. So, you're not going to fix it? Walt, let me ask you something. If Rachel had said that to Griffin, what would you have done? Silence. If someone had physically blocked your son from sitting down and told him he wasn't well behaved enough to be there, while their kid laughed at him, what would you have done? That's not the same thing, he'd said, but his voice had been uncertain. It's exactly the same thing. The only difference is that everyone expects me to just take it. To smooth things over. To make nice so no one else has to be uncomfortable with Brenda's behavior. She's your sister. And Lucy is my daughter. My first priority. My only priority when it comes to things like this. More silence. I don't know what you want me to say, Clark. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to think about what you'd do if it was your kid. And then maybe understand why I did what I did. He'd sighed. Mom's really upset. Mom stood there and watched her granddaughter get humiliated and didn't say a word until I was leaving. So yeah, she probably should be upset. With herself. That had ended the call pretty quickly. Rachel had texted me later that night. For what it's worth, Walt knows you're right. He's just not ready to say it out loud yet. And I think you did exactly what you should have done. Sometimes boundaries hurt. That doesn't mean they're wrong. I'd cried when I read that. Someone got it. Thursday, Christmas Eve, Mom had shown up at my apartment. I'd seen her car pull up through the window and had felt my stomach drop. Lucy had been in her room, playing. I'd met Mom at the door but hadn't invited her in. Clark, please. Can we talk? What about? About this situation. About Sunday. About the trip. What about it? She'd looked exhausted. I know Brenda was wrong. Okay? I know what she said was hurtful. But she's apologized. To me or to Lucy? Mom had blinked. What? Has Brenda apologized to Lucy? The person she actually hurt? Well, I'm sure she will, but... But what? But I should fix everything first? Book another house, pretend it didn't happen, so we can all go play happy family while my daughter learns that people can treat her like garbage without consequences? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying, Mom? She'd looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm saying I've lost one daughter this week. I don't want to lose both. That had hit me harder than I'd expected. You haven't lost me, I'd said, my voice softer. But you can't lose something you're choosing to protect over your own grandchild. Brenda humiliated Lucy. In front of everyone. On purpose. And you said nothing. You did nothing. Until I left, and then suddenly it was about me being dramatic. I was in shock. For 45 seconds? Because that's how long it took before you tried to excuse it. She'd looked down. What do you want from me? I want you to tell Brenda what she did was unacceptable. I want you to acknowledge that Lucy was hurt. I want you to stop acting like keeping the peace is more important than keeping your grandchild safe. And if I do all that? Will you rebook the house? And there it was. The condition. The bargain. No, I'd said. Because this isn't about the house anymore. This is about Lucy knowing that I will always choose her. Even when it's hard. Even when it costs me. Even when everyone in the family thinks I'm wrong. Mom had left crying. I know this is a long story, but I need to know something. If you think I did the right thing, comment Team Clark below. If you think I was too harsh, comment too far. I genuinely want to know, because there have been moments over the past week when I've wondered if I made the right choice. Your perspective matters to me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. It tells me these stories of real family struggles and finding your voice are worth telling. Christmas was quiet. Just Lucy and me. We made cookies shaped like snowmen, watched Christmas movies, opened presents in our pajamas. She'd gotten the art set she wanted, and I'd watched her spend hours painting while I drank coffee and felt more peaceful than I had in years. Mama, she'd said while we were having Christmas dinner, just pizza, because that's what she'd requested. Yeah? This is my favorite Christmas. Really? Even with no big family dinner? Especially with no big family dinner, she'd said, and then gone back to her pizza. Out of the mouths of babes. 2 days after Christmas, on a Friday, ironically, the day we would have checked into that mountain house, Brenda had shown up at my apartment. I'd seen her through the peephole and had debated not answering. But I'd opened the door. "What do you want, Brenda?" She'd looked terrible. Her hair was pulled back messily, no makeup, eyes red. I'd never seen my polished sister look so undone. "Can I come in?" I'd hesitated, then stepped aside. We'd sat in my living room, the same room where Lucy and I had been so content just days before. Brenda had looked around like she was seeing it for the first time, the paintings Lucy had made stuck to the fridge with magnets, the cozy throws on the couch, the books stacked on every available surface. "Your place is nice," she'd said. "Thank you." I came to apologize. I'd waited. What I said to Lucy was cruel. I don't know why I said it. No, that's not true. I do know why. She'd looked at me then, really looked at me. I was jealous. Of what? Of you. Of how Lucy looks at you. Of how content you seem even though you're divorced and working freelance and not doing what I'm doing. I have everything I thought I wanted, the career, the house, the success, and Emily is getting suspended from school for behavior issues, and I work 70 hours a week, and I can't remember the last time I felt happy. I'd felt my anger start to crack, just slightly. "So you took it out on a 6-year-old? I know. God, Clark, I know how awful that sounds. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that it wasn't about Lucy. It was never about Lucy. She's a sweet kid. The sweetest. But you let Emily treat her badly for months." Brenda had nodded, tears starting to fall. "Emily has been awful to her. And I told myself it was just kids being kids, but really I was just too tired to parent. Too checked out to care. And watching Lucy be so good, so well adjusted despite everything you've been through, it made me hate myself. So I lashed out. That's not an excuse. I know. I'm not offering it as one. I'm just trying to help you understand." We'd sat in silence for a minute. "I need to apologize to Lucy," Brenda had said finally. "Will you let me?" "That's up to her." I'd called Lucy out from her room. She'd come cautiously, standing half behind me. Brenda had gotten down on Lucy's level, kneeling on my living room floor. "Lucy, I need to say I'm sorry. What I said at Grandma's house was mean and wrong and untrue. You are a wonderful, well-behaved, kind little girl. I was having a bad day and I took it out on you, and that was not fair. I'm so sorry." Lucy had looked at me. I'd nodded, letting her know it was okay to respond however she wanted. "Okay," Lucy had said simply. "Can you forgive me?" Brenda had asked. Lucy had thought about it. "Maybe later. I'm still feeling sad about it." Brenda had nodded, tears streaming down her face now. "That's fair. That's really fair. Thank you for being honest with me." After Lucy had gone back to her room, Brenda had stood up. "For what it's worth, you were right to cancel the trip," she'd said. "I would have done the same thing if someone treated Emily that way." "Would you?" She'd looked at me. I want to say yes. I'd like to think I would. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I have that in me anymore. The backbone to do the hard thing. It's never too late to find it. Is it too late to fix this? With us? I'd thought about that. I don't know. Maybe not. But it's going to take time, Brenda. Real time. And real change. If Emily keeps treating Lucy badly and you keep excusing it, we're done. If you make one more comment about Lucy not being good enough, we're done. I'm drawing the line. I understand. Do you? Because for 27 years, I've been the one who smooths things over. Who keeps the peace? Who makes myself smaller so everyone else can be comfortable? I'm done with that. Lucy watches everything I do, and I'm not teaching her that letting people hurt you is the price of having a family. Brenda had nodded slowly. You've changed. I had to. For her. She'd left a few minutes later. As I'd closed the door behind her, I'd felt something. Not quite forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe the first step toward it. New Year's came and went. Walt and Rachel invited us over, just our families. It was nice. Griffin had taught Lucy how to play video games, and they'd bonded over their shared love of art. Rachel and I had stayed up late talking after the kids went to bed. You started something, you know, she'd said. What do you mean? Walt has started pushing back on his mom. On Brenda. He told me he'd spent years watching you take it on the chin, and he thought that's just how our family worked. But watching you walk away made him realize that maybe it doesn't have to work that way. Good, I'd said. Brenda's in therapy. Did you know that? I'd shaken my head. She is. And she's taking Emily. I think what happened was a wake-up call. A really painful, expensive wake-up call. Rachel had smiled slightly. $9,000 worth of wake-up call. I'd laughed despite myself. Mom and I had talked on the phone a week into January. It had been stilted at first, awkward in a way we'd never been. I've been thinking a lot, she'd said. About what you said. About choosing to protect Brenda over protecting Lucy. And you were right. I've spent so much energy managing Brenda's feelings, trying to keep her happy, that I didn't see what it was costing. Costing you. Costing Lucy. Why her, Mom? Why has it always been her? She'd been quiet for a long time. Because you never needed managing. You were always okay, always fine, always figured things out. Brenda was harder. More demanding. And I fell into this pattern of giving her what she needed to keep the peace. But I confused need with deserve. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I need you to do more than apologize, Mom. I know. Tell me what you need. I need you to see Lucy. Really see her. Not as an appendage to me, not as the quieter granddaughter, but as a whole person who deserves your attention and love without having to compete for it. Okay, she'd said. Okay. It's been almost 2 months now since that Sunday dinner. Things are different. Not perfect, families are never perfect. But different. Brenda and I meet for coffee sometimes, just us. We're rebuilding. Slowly. She's working less, present more with Emily, and I can see the difference it's making. Emily actually apologized to Lucy last week without being prompted. They're not best friends, but they're learning how to be cousins in a healthier way. Mom has started a weekly grandma day that rotates, 1 week just Emily, 1 week just Lucy, 1 week just Griffin. Lucy comes home from those days glowing, full of stories about what grandma taught her or what they baked together. Walt and Rachel have become some of my closest friends. Turns out we had that in common all along, we just never had the space to explore it when all our energy was going toward managing family dynamics. And Lucy? Lucy is thriving. She's taking an art class and has made 3 new friends. She's more confident, more willing to take up space. The other day she told another kid at the park, "That wasn't kind, and I don't want to play with you if you're going to be mean." She said it calmly, clearly, without anger or drama. I'd watched from a bench and felt my eyes well up. My girl was learning boundaries. Real, healthy boundaries. Last week, Brenda texted me, looking at mountain houses for next Christmas. Want to go in on one together? 50-50? I'd smiled at that. Maybe. Ask me again in June. Let's see how the next 6 months go. That's fair. How about coffee Thursday? Thursday works. People ask me if I regret it, canceling that trip, the $9,000, the family drama that followed. I don't. Not for a second. Because Lucy knows now, truly knows, that she is my priority. That when someone hurts her, I will act. That she doesn't have to make herself smaller to be loved. That being kind doesn't mean accepting cruelty. And I know it too. I know I have a spine. I know I can draw lines and enforce boundaries. I know that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is refuse to participate in their dysfunction. That's worth $9,000. Hell, that's worth everything. The other day, Lucy and I were looking at photos on my phone, and we came across one from last Christmas, the big family photo at Grandma's, everyone smiling, everyone together. Do you miss how it used to be? She'd asked me. I'd looked at that photo for a long time. At Brenda's arm around my shoulder, at Mom beaming in the center, at all of us performing this version of family that looked perfect but felt hollow. No, I'd said honestly. I like how things are now better. Me too, she'd said. Then, can we make cookies? Always. And we did. And they were perfect. So here's what I want you to take from this story. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. You are not required to teach your children to accept mistreatment in the name of family harmony. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away. If this story resonated with you, I need you to do 3 things. First, smash that like button. Let me know this message of choosing yourself and your kids matters. Second, subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to keep telling stories about real families, real struggles, and real courage. And third, this is the most important one, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been making themselves smaller. Someone who's been accepting less than they deserve because they think that's what family means. My name is Clark. I'm 30 years old. I live in Los Angeles with my incredible daughter, Lucy. And I'm done apologizing for protecting the people I love. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. And remember, you don't owe anyone access to your child at the cost of that child's dignity. Not your mother. Not your sister. Not anyone. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. And that's exactly what I did.